When Donald Trump ran for president in 2016, he dominated mainstream media, earning more than $2 billion worth of free publicity in March of 2016 alone. Now, a week after announcing his third run for president, he remains banned on Facebook and Instagram and silent on Twitter, where his account was recently brought back by new owner Elon Musk.
Trump hasn't done an interview with a major broadcast network since the 2020 election and hasn't been on CNN or MSNBC since 2016. Any interview he has sat down for since his stint in office has turned to the topic of 2020 election fraud instead of current issues facing the country. So will Trump be able to pivot and dominate the media once again? Joining us now to discuss is editor of Fourth Watch Media and author of Uncovered, Steve Krakauer. Welcome to the show.
Hey guys, great to be on.
So, Steve, it seems like the media has learned its lesson from 2016, where the common belief was that because the media paid so much attention to Trump, they basically made Trump into a reality. So the question now is, if they withhold all of that attention, if they withhold the oxygen from Donald Trump, will he in fact flame out?
It's a good question. I think there's two elements to it, because I think you're right. I mean, they certainly gave him a ton of attention, particularly those places like CNN and MSNBC, which would turn on him entirely starting in the end of 2016 and into 2017 and the rest of his presidency. But I do think there's two sides to this. The first is they gave him the oxygen of the empty podium, just waiting for him to go and speak, and then covering his rallies and just airing them in full. Hours and hours and hours of rallies of just basically free messaging for Donald Trump. That will definitely not happen again. And I do think that is an element that will potentially hurt him, because I think that's a way of getting your message out there. But the second one is the coverage of him. Morning Joe and the interviews, and then Don Lemon did some bit. But I actually don't know if that's going to make a difference. Sure, he will not be doing interviews with Joe Scarborough or Don Lemon or Anderson Cooper like he did in the primary last time. But I don't know if that's going to affect him with GOP primary voters. I don't know if that really moved the needle as much as it did in the first place. And in particularly if it's another crowded field in 2024 like it was in 2016, I think he just needs to get to that threshold of GOP primary voters, his core base. And then the media, the mainstream corporate media, is not really going to affect him one way or the other, I don't think, in terms of winning that primary.
How do you think conservative media is going to navigate him? Because obviously he's good, he's well liked by a lot of their readers, viewers, etc. Others might prefer a different candidate by now, and I get the sense that a lot of the talent would prefer a different candidate, but they're not going to turn on Trump in my perception at least, is they won't turn on him if they get negative feedback from viewers, readers, et cetera. So what do you think conservative media is going to do vis-a-vis Trump?
It's going to be fascinating to watch. I think we're already starting to see it a little bit with the Rupert Murdoch empire of News Corp, because you've got the New York Post going hard against Trump and going hard for Ron DeSantis in the early days, his announcement, and even in the post-midterm coverage there, really just anti-Trump, essentially. I mean, the New York Post was looking like it was Slate or Salon at that point. Fox News has kind of been a little bit in the middle, but I do think that that's where you might see this interesting split. Sean Hannity is not going to go and turn on Donald Trump. But is the day-to-day news coverage of it going to be a little bit more negative, a little bit more critical? Is there going to be less of it? Is there going to just the oxygen going to be taken out by places like Fox News? And I would also put it out there as what does Tucker Carlson do? Because I could see Tucker Carlson moving towards the Ron DeSantis field than the Donald Trump field. And he has a lot of sway, not just with Fox voters, but with GOP primary voters. And so I think that's going to be a fascinating one to watch. And I do think that has the ability to potentially help or hurt Trump, depending on what those forces do.
Yeah, the New York Times profile of Tucker Carlson from over the summer made the point that Tucker has been kind of slowly but perhaps, very sagely distancing himself from Trump the man, and instead focusing on Trumpism as a phenomenon in a way that might give him some more wiggle room than some of the other hosts to still hold on to that audience while still creating some potentially necessary distance from the man himself. I wonder what you make of Trump's being allowed back on Twitter, but exercising some restraint with respect to tweeting. Is this just a troll of Elon Musk, or do you think this is part of a longer strategy to treat the media a little differently than he did the last time around?
I have to say, I mean, it is remarkable restraint to see Donald Trump not just going and opening his account and starting to go tweet again. We know how much he loved the platform. I get the sense that this is more of a business decision right now for Donald Trump. He wants to make Truth Social a thing. I'm not sure that's going to be a nice long-term plan for him. And as of right now, we're very early in the primary race in the 2024 cycle. I mean, it's 2022. I think that as this gets going in 2023, as other candidates get in the field, he will need to get his message to as many people as he possibly can. And Truth Social, as much as the media loves to just share every truth that Donald Trump puts out on Truth Social, I see him going back on Twitter as soon as he knows it's no longer tenable for him to just continue to try to make Truth Social a thing.
Well, former Attorney General William Barr is calling for a new leader of the Republican Party. Monday in a New York Times op-ed, Barr said Trump will, quote, burn the whole house down. He went on to say his egoism makes him unable to think of a political party as anything but an extension of himself, a cult of personality. I think the question is, will there be a lot of challengers, a lot of fighting for that mantle of successor to Donald Trump? In a two-man contest between Trump and, say, Ron DeSantis, I think there's at least a good chance, maybe a more likely than not chance even, that DeSantis could really steal Trump's thunder. If we get into the position we had in 2016, where there are 16 candidates up there, each drawing like a fraction of the Republican Party's, of the base's support, and Trump has the plurality, you could absolutely see an exact repeat. So will people like Mike Pence and Nikki Haley and Tom Cotton, and although maybe I think he just said he didn't want to be a candidate, or Mike Pompeo, the names we keep hearing, Chris Christie, are they going to, we talk about Trump's ego, but can their ego stop them from or prevent, hold them back from just kind of sticking it out and drawing enough of support to chip away at the anti-Trump vote?
Yeah, I think that's probably the key question that we're going to see in the next 9 months, because I do think that plays such a role, not just in the political situation, but also in the media. Because look, Liz Cheney throws her hat in the ring. It won't make a difference of whether Trump wins or not. Obviously, she's essentially irrelevant to the Trump base. But yeah, I think is it a couple people? But is it people like Ralph Northam and a lot of that list that you just said? And I also produced the Megyn Kelly show. Larry Elder, the guy who ran for governor in California, said that he is likely to run for president. Now, he knows he's not going to win, but are we going to get people like that, get their message out there, start splitting things? Because that it's splitting the oxygen with the media, and it's splitting the GOP vote in the primary. And I look at this is a bipartisan thing, because I really do think that this was one of the really undercovered stories of what happened with Bernie Sanders in 2020 as well. Because, without the galvanization by places like MSNBC and other corporate left media, and also with the candidates that were not named Joe Biden, all going behind Joe Biden in that last pre-Super Tuesday push, would that have gotten Joe Biden over the line? I don't know. And I think it's going to be core for what the GOP does. And they are not able to rally behind a person. They're not going to rally behind Ron DeSantis. The GOP does not work that way. There will be a lot of people that throw their hat in the ring, or they will decide it's not my turn. But that is going to be the core of whether Donald Trump is going to easily coast in 2024 or whether it could be messy again.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up, because that was exactly what was on my mind. Democrats in 2020 seem to have learned some kind of lesson from Republicans in 2016, having everybody drop out after Super Tuesday and rally behind the establishment candidate to take out Bernie. You're saying that you don't think the Republican Party operates that way. I look forward to tracking what actually happens, and thanks, of course, for joining us today, Steve.
Hey, guys, anytime. Appreciate it.
We'll have more Rising for you right after this.